What if the effort you're putting into your life every single day isn't actually building the life that you want? Or, what if you're disciplined, consistent, and productive, but still not achieving the results you want? And what if the thing that helps you catch that early burnout, resentment, or regret is something you are already doing? Rucking. In today's episode, I'm breaking down why reflective rucks matter, what they actually are, and how to use them to extract lessons from your past, reset your direction, and intentionally shape what comes next, instead of running your life on autopilot. You're listening to the Rucker's Edge podcast, a show all about rucking that is designed to help you improve your rucking routine, lose weight, and ultimately gain your strength and energy back. Each episode dives into the science, stories, and strategies behind rucking. You'll learn from top ruckers, coaches, health experts, and performance specialists who break down what it takes to train smarter, recover faster, and stay ready for the next challenge. So whether you're new to rucking or an experienced rucker that's already logged hundreds of miles, this show is for you. I'm your host, Spencer. Thanks for listening in. Happy New Year to you. This is the very first episode of the new year. I hope you enjoyed your holidays and are making your rucking plans for the new year. To help you with that, today we're taking a page from a previous guest of the show and founder of West Orange Ruckers, Chad Haggerty. If you listened to his episode 15, titled Building a Ruck Club Community, you may remember he mentioned that he will go on 1 to 2 reflective rucks a year, where he takes time to review what's been going on in his life recently, what were his successes, his shortcomings, and what improvements could be made. I thought it'd be a good idea to break down what would make a reflective ruck a success. Let's start with why reflective rucks matter. We just mentioned that reflective rucks are often used so that we can mull something over or extract lessons, reset direction, and intentionally shape the next year of our life, and that it prevents us from going on autopilot. Let me summarize why I think everyone should go on a reflective ruck at least once a year. I think most people don't have bad intentions. We're not lazy. We're just moving through life on momentum. Day after day, week after week, we're putting in effort. But we never stop long enough to ask if that effort is actually taking us where we want to go. That's what reflection is for. Reflection is how you make sure the effort you're putting into your life is actually building the life you want. It's how you turn experience into something useful. Experience by itself doesn't automatically make you better. That's why we hear the phrase, learn from your mistakes, so much growing up. A reflective ruck is a chance to step out of reaction mode and into awareness. It's where you notice patterns. It's where you realize, oh, this keeps showing up, or that thing I thought mattered actually doesn't, or this part of my life is costing me more than I realized. And here's the important part. Most dissatisfaction doesn't come from failure. It comes from misalignment, from succeeding in a direction you never really chose. You can be disciplined, consistent, and productive and still feel off. Reflection is how you catch that early before it turns into burnout, resentment, or regret. And doing this on a ruck matters. When you're walking under load, you're not scrolling, your body is working, your nervous system is calmer, and your mind has room to actually tell you the truth. That's when clarity shows up, not because you forced it, but because you finally slowed down enough to hear it. And finally, and this is a huge reason why we should all be reflecting on our past year, reflection lets you change before things break. Most people, myself included, only change when they're in pain, something goes wrong, or we're backed into a corner. Reflective rucks are proactive, not reactive. This isn't about judging yourself. This is not about beating yourself up for what you didn't do. It's about asking one simple question. Is the effort I'm putting into my life actually building the life that I want? That's the purpose of reflective rucks. Clarity, alignment, and intentional direction. Okay, so now that we know what a reflective ruck is, let's talk about how to do one. They're slightly different than the routine rucks that we go on. And let's make this part easy for you to digest. I want the bulk of this episode to be about what you should be thinking about during your reflective rucks. So I'll touch on a few logistics here. Let's talk when you should go on one, weight, duration, location, if you should go solo or with a group, additional tools or supplies you should probably bring with you, and if you should guide your thoughts or if it should be a free flow of thoughts. Okay, when should you go on a reflective ruck? The most beneficial time for doing these will likely be around a life transition. An easy example is right now at the end or the beginning of a new year. Could also be a birthday or before a big milestone or event in your life, like the birth of a child or the passing of someone. It could also be beneficial to do it more than just once a year. Some people like to do these, twice a year or even monthly. Let's talk about weight. How much weight should you pack? You don't want to be too uncomfortable. Too much discomfort will put you out of your reflective thinking. These rucks might be longer than your usual 3-miler. For these reasons, I'd go a little lighter than your usual ruck. I'd take off maybe 5 to 10 pounds that you're used to carrying. Duration. How long should these reflective rucks be? Well, as long as they need to be. If you're anything like me, you're probably dedicating an hour or so a day or a week to get in a solid 3-mile ruck. But reflective rucks shouldn't be time-bound. If they are, you'll probably be checking your watch and trying to speed through your thoughts, and then maybe you could miss a thought that could have been a revelation for you. Let the ruck be as long as it needs to be. In a minute here, I'll go over 6 areas I recommend you focus on during the reflective ruck. If you don't have time to address all 6, then maybe just do 2 or 3 at a time. Moving on to location. Where should you go? Again, you want to limit distractions from your thoughts. You should choose a trail or route that you know well, or a park where you can ruck without worrying that you're going to get lost. Should these rucks be solo or should you do them with a group? This is dealer's choice, your preference. More people means more distractions, but also more people could mean more collaboration. So, your choice. What tools and supplies should you bring with you? Well, chances are you're going to have some sort of revelation or some sort of thought that might impact how you proceed for the rest of your year, and you're going to want to remember that. So have a way to record them or revisit later. I recommend bringing a pen and notepad or use the voice memo app on your phone. Personally, I use the speech-to-text function on my phone to record thoughts in the Notes app. And lastly here, should your thoughts be guided or should you allow them to be sort of like a free-flowing state? Again, dealer's choice here, your preference. I personally like a good outline. My thoughts are often all over the place and I totally embrace that. I genuinely like that about myself. But when I am putting thought into something that has meaning, like for my job, this podcast, or planning something for my family, I need to work hard to organize my thoughts. Same goes for working on myself and doing these reflective rucks. I need a guide. And this brings us to the next section of the episode. What should you think about on these reflective rucks? Before I provide you with the 6 areas I suggest you think about during your reflective rucks, I want to take a moment to say thanks for listening to the podcast. If you're finding this episode helpful, please text it to a fellow rucker that might find it interesting or a friend that could benefit from rucking. Sharing this episode would help the show grow and help more people improve their health and lives. Okay, back to it. Before I give you the 6 areas to focus on, I want to give you a warning. Sometimes doing these reflections, you could identify some shortcomings. But for these reflective rucks, you're not on trial here. You're just collecting data. Information gathering, you're not criticizing yourself. Be more curious than critical. Try to be objective and stoic about it. For me, this is the hard part, mainly because I can sometimes hold myself to too high of a standard, which I'm working on. But if I perceive something as a failure, I can sometimes beat myself up over it. That's not what we're doing here. If you identify a shortcoming, note it and continue reflecting. This is the same principle used when meditating. I'm not sure if you've ever meditated before, but when you meditate, at least when I have meditated in the past, thoughts come into your mind. Don't follow them. Just note that you had that thought and get back to your meditation. So same thing applies here when you're doing your reflective rucks. In my experience, once you start to get judgmental, your reflective flow will be impaired and could even stop completely. So don't let your mind drift into being critical. Remain objective and curious. Okay, so here we go. What are the 6 areas that you should be focusing on when you go on a reflective ruck? I'll list them out for you and then go into a little bit more detail shortly. Number 1, health and fitness. 2, relationships. 3, emotions. 4, finance. 5, your work. And 6, hobbies. I'm going to walk through each of these areas and provide some suggested questions or prompts for you to think about during your ruck. So let's start with health and fitness. Here's some questions to maybe ask yourself. Did you experience any injuries or illnesses? If so, how did you rebound from them? Are you where you thought you would be at the start of the year or the last time that you self-assessed? Did you give it your best effort? Have some grace with this question. We go through various stages of life, so think, was I able to give it as much as I could at that time in my life? What habits worked, or what habits did you struggle to maintain? Were you happy with your diet? If not, what could be improved? Where did you ignore early warning signs? Was it sleep, soreness, stress, or burnout? Topic number 2, relationships. Which relationships energized you and which consistently drained you? Where did you avoid hard conversations? Who deserves more intentional time next year and why? Who were your most valuable connections? Who helped you? How did you support others? Did you show up as the person that you would want in your own life? And lastly, did you spend enough time with everyone that you wanted to? Topic 3, emotions. This is the hardest for me. Sometimes I struggle identifying what emotion I have, so recalling my emotions through the year is hard for me, and I need to spend more time on this than other areas. But here are some prompts or some questions to ask yourself. What moments brought you the most happiness? What was your best or worst memory? How did you handle setbacks? What mistakes did you make? And what did you learn from those mistakes? What drained your energy? What patterns showed up in your emotional highs and lows? Were they the same triggers, the same people, or maybe the same situations? When did you feel most at peace, not just happy? How did you talk to yourself when things didn't go as planned? And lastly, what emotions did you avoid dealing with this past year? Topic 4, finance. Did your spending reflect your values? What financial decisions reduced stress? What money habits caused friction or anxiety? Did you feel more or less in control than last year? And lastly, what's one financial move that would simplify your life this upcoming year? Topic number 5, work. Did your work align with your values? What work gave you energy versus just paid the bills? If nothing changed about your job or your role in your organization next year, would you be okay with that? Did you achieve your goals? If not, why do you think that was the case? What were the biggest obstacles? What were some items or workflows that were inefficient and need to be optimized? And lastly, what were your biggest time wasters? And here's the last topic, number 6, hobbies. Which activities made you lose track of time? Did you make time for the things that had no outcome attached to it? What hobbies did you abandon and why? And lastly, did you allow yourself to be a beginner? Okay, so those are my suggestions to what to think about during your reflection ruck. Now, what do you do with those thoughts? You've come back from your reflective ruck. You may have some revelations. You may have some thoughts, some insight on what you can do better for next year. What do? Well, we take action. This is where you start driving your life. You push it in the direction you want to take it. So make some adjustments for the new year. Use what you learned or remembered during the reflective ruck and use it to make those adjustments for the upcoming year. A way to do this is for each of the 6 areas that we talked about, you could think, what's one small adjustment? Not a complete overhaul, but one small adjustment that would move this area in the right direction for next year. That's a good first step, but really to move the needle, I would consider setting some goals. Whatever you have the capacity to do. So probably not a good idea to set 6 goals, one for each of the 6 different areas, because they're going to be SMART goals, and they're going to take a lot of effort. Maybe just 1 for now. 2 if you think you have the capacity to maintain 2 goals for the year. Here's how I would decide what goals to select. Review the 6 areas of reflection. Consider what you've learned about yourself and about the adjustment you can make in that area that would get you closer to where you want to be the next couple of years ahead. And ask yourself this question. If I only made progress in one of these areas over the next 90 days, which one would most improve my life? That's the area where you will develop your primary goal. Again, it's going to be a SMART goal, so make sure that it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And if you want a refresher on SMART goals, go back, listen to episode 8 titled Rucking Goals Explained. I go over what SMART goals are and how to set them. But use these 1 to 2 goals as real drivers to make change and drive your life in the right direction you want it to go. Let the other small adjustments act as boundaries or reminders. All right, that's where I'll end it for today. I hope this motivates you to turn your next ruck into a reflective ruck, and you identify a few things that can make your life even better than it already is. If you have any insight or ideas on how you made your reflective ruck a success, let me know over on Instagram at the Rucker's Edge Pod. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow or subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app so you're notified of new episodes. Next week, we'll be talking to Dean Pullman over at Manflow Yoga. We talk about some yoga poses and routines that can help us stay loose and recover between rucks. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks again for listening to this episode of The Rucker's Edge.